Well, Disney is a joke. We're not just going to avoid the development agreement they tried to do. We're going to look at things like taxes on the hotels. We're going to look at things like tolls on the roads. They can keep trying to do things, but ultimately we're going to win on every single issue involving Disney. I can tell you that.
Hey everyone, Brayden here, coming to you with a breaking Disney news update on the latest happening with this developing situation between the state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, and Disney over the former Reedy Creek Improvement District, Walt Disney World's governing body that has granted Disney a level of control over local governance nobody else has gotten to enjoy. Their competitors such as Universal, they've never had anything like this, and now the state of Florida has tried to take it away. 2 months back, two big events happened which set us on the course that we are on today. First, on February 8th, the old Disney-controlled board signed into law development agreements and restrictive covenants with Disney that grant Disney wide-sweeping control over the entire area for at least the next 30 years. Something that it is said Disney did sort of as an insurance policy for whatever might come next, because these agreements are inalterable by any new board. And then the second event which took place was the dissolution and reforming of Reedy Creek by a special act of the Florida legislature, creating the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District controlled by a state-appointed board. So the difference between Reedy Creek and this is now we have a state-appointed board rather than a locally appointed board, which raises some questions of, is that legal and things of that nature. But basically, shortly after the new governor-appointed board came into power, they discovered that they in fact have no power because of these previously undiscovered agreements that Disney shoved through last minute, which looked a little embarrassing for the state because these agreements that Disney shoved through, however overreaching you may or may not think that these documents are, the point is they weren't done behind the scenes in some secret meeting. These were read through and voted on over the course of several public meetings anyone could have attended at Reedy Creek in January and February of this year. So the fact that these documents went unnoticed till after the new bill became law, it didn't look too good for the state of Florida, the Florida legislature, and the governor. It seems they didn't consider what the mouse's lawyers are capable of, what they might do, and they lacked some due diligence there. So the media went after DeSantis for this. You had Iger just days ago at the annual shareholders meeting addressing this issue, saying that DeSantis is anti-business and anti-Florida for going after Disney over a free speech issue, Disney having expressed their opposition to the parental rights bill Florida passed last year. Now the state has gotten a second to look at what was uncovered last week and what was presented at that Reedy Creek meeting, and DeSantis is now starting to go on the offensive. In a Q&A session last night, he talked about the developers agreement itself, everything that led up to this, as well as answered my question that I asked you guys in one of our previous reports, which was, if Florida gets tied up in some sort of legal battle over this agreement that the Disney lawyers cooked up under their noses, while they're dealing with that whole situation, who knows how long that'll take, what else might Florida do to Disney in the interim? Because it's not like they can only do one thing. They can only reform Reedy Creek. There's other sticks that the state likely has if they want to go after Disney here. So what other sticks are there? What else can they use against Disney? Well, we finally heard what those might be from the horse's mouth. Let's see what DeSantis just said on this situation.
Well, Disney is a joke because in the late 60s, they were given by the Florida legislature their own government in Central Florida. So they basically answered to themselves. The whole thing was a fiction. Basically, you had a corporation running 40 square miles of territory right in the heart of Florida. And so that had basically gone on and was kind of untouchable just because they exercise so much political power over the process. They get into this issue with getting involved in our education bill, and we just had to look at this and say, okay, do they have a, quote, First Amendment right to be advocating for gender ideology in kindergarten? Yeah, I guess. Is that honestly faithful to their fiduciary duty to their shareholders? I don't think so, but that's not really in my wheelhouse as governor. But what I can tell you is, under no circumstances should the state of Florida be subsidizing woke activism by allowing them to have their own government. So we took it away. So lost their own government. We've put the state in charge with a control board. Now, it's interesting, the media tried to get spun up about Disney trying to do these agreements, very quietly right before we took control, and they're acting like somehow that they pulled one over on the state. There'll be a lot of that comes out over the next month or two, but suffice it to say, the legislature is going to avoid anything Disney did on the way out the door. But now that Disney has reopened this issue, we're not just going to avoid the development agreement they tried to do. We're going to look at things like taxes on the hotels. We're going to look at things like tolls on the roads. We're going to look at things like developing some of the property that the district owns. And so at the end of the day, I think what Disney has tried to do is they've tried to say that they should be able to operate outside the context of our constitutional system in Florida. No, we took this action prior to the election. We won overwhelmingly. They are not superior to the people of Florida. And so come hell or high water, we're going to make sure that that policy of Florida carries the day. And so they can keep trying to do things, but ultimately we're going to win on every single issue involving Disney. I can tell you that.
So guys, it looks like this whole situation, I don't know, it seems like we sort of had a few days of peace and quiet. There's really nothing going on. Things seem to be simmering down a little bit. It looked as though, nothing was really happening with the Reedy Creek battle. Nope. Nothing is simmering down on this front. How much of this is just talk from DeSantis is for you to interpret. No matter your opinion on this, you have to admit there are a lot of politics, a lot of politicking involved here that you sort of have to put aside of something tangible happening to Disney World, like brick and mortar toll roads actually being put up, tolls on the roads, things of that nature. You guys know what I'm saying. But the way DeSantis is talking here, the way the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, is talking, it doesn't seem like either side is looking to back down here just yet or come to some sort of behind the scenes agreement and let this all blow over. The oversight board is talking about going to the Supreme Court. Iger, in the meantime, is calling DeSantis anti-Florida publicly. Most lawyers that I've seen are saying that Disney's development agreement they got through, it's ironclad, it's likely legitimate, and in that case, can they void it? I'm not a lawyer, but that definitely sounds like something that will result in a lawsuit, a protracted battle, and worst of all, it sounds like if that's the case, then the state might go to Plan B or C or D, and these are things that are going to affect Florida tourism, Central Florida tourism, like putting tolls on Disney's roads or putting extra taxes on the hotels, which of course will be passed on to the consumer because we know how Disney works. I have a hard time seeing how tolls on the roads would actually work in practice. It's not like Disney is a bunch of free tollways right now. It's a bunch of little roads that extend beyond the district and into the district and all sorts of things like that. So who knows how exactly that would work. It's also quite possible when DeSantis is saying that, they can do things like the toll roads or the taxes, he's just suggesting things that they could do if Mickey doesn't get it together. Like, hey, if you don't do what we want, we can mess your place up. That sort of thing, that might be what he's doing there, not actually saying we're about to set up toll booths, in front of the Walt Disney World entrance sign. But that would be a pretty crazy outcome here, and it does sound like it could be a possible outcome. So we will see on all of this. If it is true that Florida can void the developer agreement and the oversight board gets their power back and it's all the way that DeSantis wanted it in the first place, the way that the bill was originally passed, where this oversight district would be overseeing Disney and it wouldn't be controlled by Disney. If they get all that back, then that's probably enough for the state that'll be deemed a win, and that'll be all they do. But if that doesn't happen and this board remains powerless, every day they remain powerless, these other sticks that Florida could use against Disney, it becomes more likely that they actually look into using one of those, which is what DeSantis was sort of inferring there, in my opinion, in that speech, in that Q&A response that he had there. Some crazy stuff. Things are definitely escalating here. Let me know what you guys think about all the latest. In some more positive news today, I have another story for you guys. I have some very exciting news for those of you who still like Disney and want to go. You might have to pay tolls while you're going into Walt Disney World. We'll see how that pans out. But regardless of what happens there, annual passes are coming back. The full roster of annual passes are going back on sale on Disney's site starting on April 20th. So for those of you who are always messaging me, Brayden, have you heard anything about annual passes? On April 20th, 20th, go grab your new annual passes because there is no guarantee that these will remain on sale in perpetuity. I highly suspect that they will not, and we'll see sales suspended again in the future. I think what this is Disney refilling the hoppers, because think about it, they haven't sold most of these passes in a year, and over that time, you know, people are always canceling their annual passes, right? So I think that this is Disney filling back in those slots that they've lost throughout the past year on these various tiers, and they're not actually massively expanding the size of the pass holder base or anything like that. So if you're someone who's been waiting to become an annual pass holder for a long time now, get ready. April 20th, that'll be your time to do so. Also, for select DVC members, you'll be able to grab the Sorcerer Pass early. That's the pass that I have, starting on April 13th. So a little bit of early access there. That's the latest news in the world of Disney today. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe with those notifications on, and I will keep you on top of all the latest with the fun stuff as well as this crazy Reedy Creek situation. I noticed in that clip, you might have noticed this, DeSantis said that there's going to be a lot more coming out of the Reedy Creek situation, a lot more news over the last month or two. So if that is not just words and actually something that ends up panning out, I will be right here to bring you guys all of that news that DeSantis is referring to there. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of that. Thank you so much for watching. From the Mickey Views Magic Studio, this is Brayden. I'll talk to you soon. Have a magical day.